Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Scorn. I play on the Xbox Series X. It's also available on the Series S and PC. So let's get into the story, and, well, there really isn't a story so much. It's one of those games that's really just open to vague interpretation, and the ending is exactly that. It's meant to be an open-ended, vague thing. And I looked into it to see what other people were thinking about it, and we all kind of landed on the same place, which if you don't want to hear that, spoiler warning, I guess. So you can mute me for the next few seconds or so. I'll take the spoiler warning thing off when I'm done. But to put it simply, really the game is like a meditation on life cycles, the beginning and end of civilizations and people and beings. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. It's an experience leading you through that, I guess. Which for me, honestly, I found a little disappointing. I love a good story. I find story to be a driving force in video games, and so that lack of story and just that overall vague concept isn't necessarily the best driving force for me. Now, as for the audio, I gotta say I actually love the audio in this game. I think the sound effects are very well done. They fit the game very well. They are suitably gross and fleshy, and yeah, they just work with the overall style. But going along with that, I think the music works very well with what the game is and the style of it again. Now let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and going into this, I admittedly thought this was going to be a first-person survival horror game, but it's actually more of a first-person survival game, but not in like a Minecraft or like Valhalla survival style. It's like a survival horror game, just without the horror. Because really, there's nothing scary at any point in time. I was never really frightened. There was one moment in the game, a small stretch, where it was a little bit, but not quite actually hitting horror. So I will say that disappointed me a bit. As for really the rest of the game is a lot of puzzle solving. And there is combat in the game, but I don't think the combat is the strongest part of the game. You do get other weapons that suitably fit the world. You get this little creature thing that heals you and holds your ammo. But ammo as well as healing items are sufficiently limited, giving you that survival element. You're not constantly in combat, you're not constantly afraid of what's going to happen. You are generally solving puzzles. You can avoid the enemy creatures. For the most part, there are situations where you definitely cannot, and you can't just focus on the puzzles or else you'll die. Which I gotta say, the checkpointing is actually fairly well done. I didn't lose a lot of progress the times I did die, which, yeah, it definitely happened. And there are enough variety in the weapons that are suitable for a game of this length. Now let's get into the controls, and I don't really have any complaints with the controls. I think they work well, they function for what you're doing. I don't have any real complaints with the shooting mechanics or the movement mechanics. I will say nothing in this game, including like gameplay stuff or controls, is just given to you. I mean, if you pause it, you can see the controls, but there is no tutorial, which really suits a lot of the minimalist nature of the game as a whole. What is not minimalist is the graphics and visuals. And honestly, I will say, weirdly enough, the graphics and visuals are also the predominant storytelling element, and for me, the predominant driving force in this game. Which is weird, and I don't necessarily love. The thing that kept me going forward was exploring and seeing this world and the changes and just all of that. And the world is very, very, very H.R. Geiger inspired. That is just so 100% what you get from it. Everything in this world is this weird biomechanical, fleshy, just mess almost. But not mess, it's also very clearly designed. It's very strange, and like you can see this new stuff taking over this old stuff, and you can see how it's progressing. And it is, as the trailers and promotional material and all of that stuff have shown, like suitably grotesque, like truly it is. Your gun is this weird bone flesh amalgamation that might be alive and shoots these weird projectiles. You have to implant a thing on your arm to interact with like the mechanics, and they look suitably gross and weird. They look like some strange organism that is interacting with these like biomechanical machines, and it works, and it just fits in this disturbing way. You can look down at your character and see his weird, like, exposed organs that are apparently supposed to be that way, but it looks freaky and gross, and it's well done though, it fits. The other creatures in the world that are new to this world are, like, suitably unevolved, I guess, as, like, compared to your character. Just the graphics and visuals, like, if you've seen the gameplay, you know what you're looking at, but describing it is actually very difficult. It's something that has to be experienced. But from a visual standpoint, I was really impressed with the game. So let's get into the wrap-up, and I gotta say, I'm kind of disappointed in the game overall. The gameplay is good and it works, but it doesn't compel me to play the game. The story is not really a story, so it doesn't compel me to play the game. And for me, those are always the two driving factors, really. Whereas in this game, it's the graphics and the visuals and seeing that progression that's driving me, and while that is interesting, if you love story and you love interesting gameplay and fun and addictive gameplay, then this isn't really that kind of game. So while I didn't hate my time with it, I really do have a hard time recommending this game, especially at full price. And it's one of those games that I'm going to be very ambivalent on because it's hard to hate it, but at the same time, it's just so very hard to recommend it because it doesn't possess the things that I generally value in a video game. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me what's your favorite Tool music video? I'm going with that because, honestly, a lot of this stuff reminded me of a Tool music video in some ways. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.